Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's Excel coffee break. So today's session was going to be focusing on one specific function called Countifs. There's another function called Countif. I'll explain the difference between them in a second and why you need to consider which one you use or not at all in the case of Countifs. So as always, this is about me sitting down in front of you, your desktop, and we're going to go through some more examples. So we're going to really use some good examples of where you can use Countifs to get a comparison between two lists and also get some values and some information out of a specific list. So let's get our hands dirty, get straight in there and have a look at how to use this function. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in a count. So what we've got is we've got a list of data, and what we want to do is we want to count how many times we see, for instance, channel partners. So that would return 2. So count, that's when you use COUNTIF. So in effect you're looking down the list and you're saying count it if it meets a criteria. So in this case it would return the value for 2 when we're looking at channel partners. Now the difference between COUNTIF and COUNTIFs is subtle, and it just means that COUNTIFs, like it says, is plural. You can do multiple criteria. So you don't just have to look at one column. You can say count it if it's channel partners, but also maybe count it if it's channel partners and Montana. Oh, in this case it's 2. But it could easily be that there are multiple ones, so you could have multiple items, but not the same for each one. So you've got multiple criteria going on. So let's look at how we can use that. So my general rule of thumb is with Countifs, always use Countifs with a plural. Countifs, you're not forced to use multiple ones, you can just use one. But if you do want to use multiple ones, you can always add them on later on. So it's easier than have to think, oh, why is it failing on me? And it's because you haven't put that S in front of it. So get into the habit of using Countifs. There is a sort of a slight offset in terms of performance maybe, but for most people, most spreadsheets, I always advise just go straight with Countifs, and you can always adjust it later on if you know that you don't need it. Let's go off and play with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 different situations. One where we're actually doing a count in a list, and another one where we're doing as a summary table, such as so to speak. So let's go off and do that. Let's count this. So here I want to do a count. I'm going to go straight away into that habit of using Countifs. And what I want to do is count if the segment is the same as the line we're in. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to go down. So this is the range that we want to look at. So we want to look at the criteria range, so where you want to look down to see if it meets a criteria. So we want to look down there, and then the next one with the comma, it says what is the criteria? What do you want it to be? Now you can type it in. It's always in a good habit of, rather than typing things in, keep them in specific cells. And in this case, we want to count them all if they're the same as the row that we're in. So I can literally click on that one and hit enter. So what we're doing is going down all this set of cells, and we're saying if it equals channel partners. So you can see it's 2. Now there's going to be a problem if I drag that down straight away, and if you looked at previous sessions you'll know the reason why. The reason being is, so this one is great, it's looking down there and it's looking for this one. If I look at a different cell, this one is now looking down here because I'm using relative addressing. So rather than using relative addressing, what I need to do is actually use absolute addressing. So I always look at C4 to C9. I do that by selecting it and doing F4, locking it down, anchoring it to that specific set of cells. And now when I drag down, you can see that the numbers are all adding up. So let's have a look. So 5. So it's looking down in here for government. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's fine. It all makes sense. So there you can see we've got going down looking at one specific criteria. Now the benefit of using COUNTIF straight away is if you want to expand that, you can always add extra criteria. So let's change that now. And we want to say if the segment is the same as this row and the product is the same as this row. So I'm just going to go to the end, do a comma, and I can now see that I get criteria range 2. So this time we're looking down in product, and I'm going to lock it straight away with F4 and comma. What value do we want? Well, we want this value, and that doesn't need to be locked because we want it to go down as we drag down. So here you can still, it says 2, because just by chance there are channel partners that are both Montana. But now let's drag that down and you'll see that the numbers change. So you can see the numbers are less. So for instance, this one, mid-market Carretera, so Carretera. So you can see mid-market Carretera, I should have chosen Montana, shouldn't I? So there you can see how it's all working out nicely. So you can see there's a real benefit there of using COUNTIF straight away. You can add on criteria, you can add on extra criteria, you could easily sort of, you can see if I go and do a comma, I now get criteria range 3. So you can really build it up and lock it down, which is really useful. So that's using COUNTIF in a list. We could also do it in a summary table. So we've got a table up here, and what we want to do is, let's just start off and ignore that. We just want to know how many channel partners there are, how many enterprise there are. Now, before some of you start screaming at me, I know you can do this in pivot table, and there are lots of other ways that you can do these things. But we'll see. There's method in my madness. Let me go ahead and do this. So here we go. So channel partners. So what we want to do, exactly the same thing. Countifs. We'll look down the same column. Now you don't have to look down that specific column range and lock it. So we went down this specific row set of cells and locked it. You could, or this specific column. You can also just go straight to the column. It all depends on your data, how it is. Maybe you've got lots of data above and data below that you don't want to, but in this case it's the only thing on that sheet, so we could just do the entire column. A little bit slower maybe, but in most situations it's fine. So then you don't have to worry about your absolute relative addressing. So column C, and we want to see if it's the same as channel partners. Close brackets, that's 2. Drill down, and you can see those 5s and 6s that we had before. And we can see we've got a 0. Now the benefit of doing it this way in the summary table, as you probably know, is there are some, with the pivot table you can see the data you've got. It's pivoting on the data you've got, not the data you might have. So this is where it's beneficial, and also maybe you didn't even want that in a complete table. You just wanted it as a single cell somewhere or something along those lines. So sometimes it is useful just to use Countifs rather than doing a pivot, some sort of intensive table like that analysis, and sometimes this works better. So, and in this case we can see we've got no tech elements, so there is sometimes a benefit in doing it this way. Now let's add the Countifs element with another criteria, let's say Montana. So all we're going to do is going in here, and now we're going to do another comma to get to our second set of criteria. Column E, keep consistent, whether if you use columns, always use columns. If you use a set of ranges, always use a set of ranges based starting at the same point. And here we're going to choose Montana. Now for the clever ones ahead, what am I going to do now? F4 to lock down 3. Anchor it always on row 3, so that when I drag this down it's always looking at row 3. And there you can see we've got exactly the same numbers, but in a summary setting with the added benefit of we're looking at tech. So there is a sort of a really easy way of sort of using Countifs, getting to the habit with the S, of doing it in a summary table or actually within the list itself. So there's some really good benefits there. You could also do that with tables. Let me just sort of show that in a table setting. So this is exactly the same data, but what we're doing now is we're looking at a table of data. I can see that because I've got Table Tools Design at the top, and I can see that there is a table named Table 2. So what is the difference between there? Well, your name range has changed slightly. I'll do this very quickly just so you can see the difference and just talk to you. I'll only do one set of criteria, but it's the same for multiple as well. So here we go, Countifs. And now what I'm going to do is I want to say segment. I'm not going to do the whole column. I'm not going to. I could select all the cells. So I could select all the cells. As soon as I do, you can see over here it's changed. Instead of saying C4 to C19, it's saying sort of square brackets segment. So it knows that the column in this table is called segment. So that's one of the benefits of using tables, and it's also one of the differences you'll see depending on the data you're doing a Countif in. I just wanted to bring that attention to. And then if I do a comma and then have a look on this specific cell, you can see it says at segment. The at means in the same row here. hit enter, and you can see it's populated it. So it's no different whether you're using specific cells or whether you're using a table. It's still just as easy. Still continue using the COUNTIFs. Now I did promise you some real live examples, so let's go and do that. So let's go and have a look at some information that we want to sort of go through. So what is the information that I want to sort of just drill down through here? Well, what I want to do is go down and I've got, you can see I've got marsupials and I've got pairs. So my ultimate goal here is to actually see if all marsupials are all paired. So for instance, in carnivores, I can see that not all of them have got pairs, like mating pairs or something along those lines. So I took a really surreal example on this one, I'm sorry. But here you can see that what you're doing is you're looking at a different set and you're doing some criteria. We can use that using COUNTIFs. Using COUNTIFs, we can sort of have a look and see if all marsupials are paired or if all carnivores are paired. So we can do that in a very easy way. So that's one thing what we want to do. The other thing we want to do is we want to go down and have a look and see if any of the items in here are duplicates. Do we have, for instance, a little big clue here, do we have a situation where we've got duplicate rows? So duplicate finding is a very common example of when we could use COUNTIFs. Now, there are other ways of finding duplicates, of course, as some of you may know. So for instance, I could select all of my data, and then I can go into data, into the data tab, and I can do remove duplicates. And then what I want to do is I want to look for any unique items where the category and the name are the same. I don't need pairs. I only want to look to see if the category and the name are the same. Now, if I knew the name was unique to the category, then I'd just do name. So I'd only have to sort of select that. But maybe there are marsupials called koala and there are primates called koala. So for that reason, I'm going to do a unique combination of these ones. If I just do OK, oh, one duplicate found, and what it's done is it's removed it. So you can see that it went up there. So it's left me with 17 unique elements that are showing up in there. So that's, I mean, that's one common way people do to sort of get down to a list that's got all of the duplicates removed. But am I sure that it's chosen the right one? So it could be that there's a difference between those duplicates. So in that case, I might want to investigate those duplicates first. So let me do a Control Z, and I'm going to do something. I'm going to do a count. So here's a real situation where we would use a count. So let's just make that the same color, otherwise it bugs me. So there we go, we've got count. And what we're going to do is just drill down. So let's do exactly the same thing we did before. So COUNTIFs. So we want to go down here, lock it, F4, and see if it's the same as this. And we also want to go down here, lock it, and see if it's the same as whatever the name on that row is. Close brackets. So there's only one marsupial koala. Phew. Now let's just drill down. So there you can see we've got duplicates that are starting to form. So any duplicates will obviously have a count of more than one. It's found more than one of them. And of course, what you could do there is, for instance, filter it and look at the duplicates. So remove all the ones that are one. All right. And here's my point. So this one says spider monkey pairs Y, and this one has got pairs no. So in this case, I've now got a chance by using the COUNTIFs to see what they are, and then I can actually make a call of which one I want to delete. So it might be this one I delete, or it might be this one I delete. So you've got that opportunity now to remove them manually or make any changes. It's up to you how you proceed. Now that is looking at duplicates, and one of the reasons why you can do it as a sort of stepping stage before you actually remove the duplicates to see those items. But I also said I've got another one that I wanted to go through, and I want to see if all marsupials are paired or if all primates are paired. So how do we do that? So what we've got, we can see, we know all of the marsupials. We can see there are two marsupials. Now if they're all paired, the combination of marsupials and pairs will also be 2. So let's go and do that in 2 steps. So count cat. So here we're going down and we're going to do something slightly different here. We only need one criteria, but again, countifs, doesn't matter if there is only one criteria, countifs. And what we want to do is countif this, lock it, it's the same as this. So we can see there are 2 marsupials and there are 10 carnivores and 6 primates. Well, let's get rid of that duplicate. We forgot to do that stage. Let's just get rid of that one. Shift it up. There we go. So we've got rid of those duplicates. So what we now want to do is to see if there how many there are pairs. So this is count cat paired. So here we're going to go down and we're going to say countifs. So again, count these, lock it, F4, if it's the same as that. But now we also want to say, also go down here and count if it's a Y. Now you could either, because we want a specific value to see how many are Ys, we're going to actually do a quote Y. Now I said it's always sort of best not to do that, and I'll show you a way around that in a second. But let's just do it as it is now. So what you could also do is put a little cell up here and then do exactly the same thing but link it. It's up to you how you do it. Depends on your specific example, how quick you want to be, etc. So we're going to lock it to F2. We can lock the whole thing to F2, so when we go down it's always going to look at that. So here you can see what it's saying is we've got 2 marsupials and here it's saying we've got 2 marsupials that are paired. Let's go down. So in this case, what we've got is, oh, I forgot to, let me just look at that. It always happens. I forgot to lock the D4, D20. So if the numbers kind of go, what's going on there? Always have a look at the absolute referencing. Let's drill down. So you can see, as we'd expect, all carnivores got the same number because there are 8 carnivores that have got a Y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8. And we've got 3 primates that are Y. So now we can use that information if we know that the counter categories is the same. If the counter categories paired is the same as counter categories, then we know that they've all got pairing. So let's just insert that. So all paired. So, and it is if that equals that. So it's true. So what we've got is, yes, marsupials are all paired, carnivores are not, primates are not. And of course you could do that in a summary table. There's nothing, we put it in a list, but perhaps this is more appropriate having as a separate list, just like we did in the example over here where we've got everything sort of showing up there. So you can see sort of how it works in both cases. We've looked at removing duplicates. Now let's go back and get rid of these. I've got one more thing I want to show you, which is a really common exercise. And in fact, I'm going to put spider monkey back in there just so that we've got a nice reference point. So what I want to do is I want to compare 2 lists. So I won't tell you how many times I've been asked, could you please help me with identifying what 2 lists? I want to know if there are duplicates in one and not in the other one. I won't tell you how many times that's happened, but it's something along the lines of that. So it is remarkable how often it happens. Oh, I shouldn't have taken this. It was a nice joke, but longer. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing I say to them is don't forget 2 lists. One, are you sure one's got the complete set in it? So it could be that one's got, they both have actually got missing items. So always take that into consideration when doing comparisons. Have a look to see if it's in one and it's not in the other one, and also the other way around as well. So that's a common task. So here we go. And then we can just use other list. So here we're just going to use a sort of a value in here. So what we're going to do here, so we use a COUNTIFs again. And again, we need to compare both category and name. So countifs. So instead of looking down this section, we're going to look in this list, lock it, and we want to know if it is the same as this value on the other list. Now I've got currency, of course, because I removed the other ones. Let's just get rid of that, otherwise again it will bug me. And let's drill down. So, oh, what am I doing? I didn't. So there we can see the two master pupils, but of course I was so worried about the formatting. So we also need to check the name, go down that other list, lock it, and see if it's the same as koala. So there you can see one. So what we've got, we've got 2s and 0s. So what do they mean? Well, if it's a 1, then it's found one of those in the other list. If it's a 0, it's not in that list. So there is no cougar in this list. But in this case, cheetah, you can see that we've actually got 2 cheetahs in the list. So not only is it telling us the countifs, not only is saying if it's in there, but it's also saying if they're duplicates. So other people will use the function called match of looking down that list. The countif gives you a little bit more information. It's saying how many there are as well. And sometimes that can be pretty useful depending on your situation. So there you can see that we've got that, a complete list of elements that are in there or even duplicated. And then you can do exactly the same thing on the other list as well. So countifs. This time I'm going to take the entire column. Doesn't make any difference on this one, and it doesn't mean I have to worry about absolute referencing, but you see both in action there really. That's what I was thinking. So here we're going to go down to look in here, and we want to see if it's the same as this cell, and we want to look down in column C and see if it's the same as the value of the cell in H. Again, got currencies, turn to general, and if I go down, you can see ones. Ah, same thing again. I've got spider monkey twice showing up, and I have got no white cheek gibbon in that list. So always compare both lists to see if they're in there. And if I, for instance, get rid of this one, you can see that that's got rid of one of the elements, and the other one is white cheek gibbon. So if I put that in there, then you know it's all showing up correctly. The benefit of this list is because I'm looking at an entire column, I can just add items down the bottom without worrying about it. On this one, I'm specific to a column. So for instance, cougar. If I add cougar to the bottom of the list, it's not going to make any difference because I was very specific. You can still see that cougar is showing as a 0 because it's looking at a very specific range. So there's a benefit there of using columns, the entire column. It all depends on your situation, and you can make these ranges dynamic, etc. So that actually ends those examples. I hope they were sort of really useful in sort of providing you with a bit of insight into it. Now, as always, thanks for watching. I hope that was particularly useful. It probably went on a bit longer than just a single coffee. I hope it was one of those great big ones that you get in the coffee shop. So thanks for watching. As always, give it a bit of a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you see any new things coming in. I'm going to do a lot more exciting things sort of in the coming weeks. And share. Why not share it? You told people about this wonderful channel and the videos that are in there, and then they say, oh, tell me how you do it. And then if you share it, you don't have to explain it. Get them to watch the video. So with that, thanks for watching, and